If God opened your spiritual eyes for just 10 seconds, you would never be the same. Not 10 years, not 10 months, not even 10 minutes. Just 10 seconds of seeing beyond the physical realm, and everything you think matters would rearrange itself instantly. Because what you see with your natural eyes is only a fraction of reality. Right now, there is more happening around you than you could ever imagine. Angels on assignment, battles in the unseen, prayers rising like incense, demonic strategies being blocked, divine protection standing guard. The room you think is empty has never truly been empty. If God pulled back the veil for 10 seconds, you would see that you have never walked alone. Not once. You would see how many times disaster was seconds away from you, and something invisible stepped in. You would see the accident that almost happened, the sickness that almost took you, the betrayal that was forming but got scattered. You would see hands you never noticed shielding you, and you would fall to your knees, because fear of man would evaporate instantly. That anxiety about opinions? Gone. That obsession with validation? Dead. When you see the throne of God for even a glimpse, when you see how small human applause really is compared to divine approval, you stop living for people. If your spiritual eyes opened, you would see that your prayers are not weak whispers hitting a ceiling. They are heard. They move things. They trigger movement in realms you cannot see. Some of the delays you are frustrated about are actually divine timing aligning pieces you cannot yet comprehend. You would see that some of your closed doors were mercies. You would see conversations happening in the spirit realm about your destiny. You would see resistance against your calling. You would understand why certain seasons felt heavier than others. You would realize that the intensity of the battle was proof of the value of your assignment. And suddenly, quitting would no longer be an option. If God opened your spiritual eyes, you would see how temporary this world really is. The things people fight over, the money they compromise for, the pride they protect. It would all look like dust floating in sunlight. For 10 seconds, eternity would feel more real than time. You would see that sin is not harmless. It has weight. It has consequence. It creates openings. You would understand why holiness is not restriction. It is protection. You would see how obedience strengthens you in ways comfort never could. You would also see how deeply loved you are. You would see moments when you thought God was silent, but He was actually working behind the curtain. You would see the nights when you cried alone and heaven leaned closer. You would see that grace covered you more times than you deserve. You would see mercy interrupting what judgment could have allowed. And that revelation would break you, not with fear but with gratitude. Imagine seeing even one angel assigned to your life. Imagine seeing how seriously heaven takes your existence. You would stop calling yourself ordinary. You would stop shrinking. You would stop doubting whether your life matters. Because if there is warfare around you, there must be something valuable within you. If your spiritual eyes were opened for 10 seconds, comparison would die. Jealousy would lose oxygen. You would see that every person has a different race, a different calling, a different level of responsibility. You would stop measuring your progress against someone else's highlight reel. You would see that God is more focused on your transformation than your comfort. You would see how words carry power, how what you speak builds or destroys, how negativity invites heaviness, how faith shifts atmospheres. You would realize that what you confess is not empty sound, it is spiritual agreement. And after 10 seconds, you would never speak casually again. But here is the truth. God does not always open our spiritual eyes fully because if He did, we would be overwhelmed. Faith would no longer require trust if everything was visible. Growth would not require surrender if every outcome was obvious. So instead, He gives us glimpses through His Word, through conviction, through peace that makes no logical sense, through protection we only recognize later. You may not see the unseen realm right now, but it is real. You may not see the angels, but they are present. You may not see the battle, but victory is already being arranged. And one day, when eternity fully opens your spiritual eyes, you will realize that the life you thought was ordinary was actually surrounded by constant divine activity. If you knew what was happening around you in this very moment, you would pray differently. You would worship differently. You would forgive faster. You would obey quicker. You would fear less. 10 seconds of spiritual sight would change your habits forever. But until that veil lifts, live like it already has. Walk like you are guarded. Pray like you are heard. Speak like heaven is listening. Resist like victory is certain. Worship like the throne is near, because it is. And when your spiritual eyes finally open, whether for 10 seconds or for eternity, you will discover that God was closer, stronger, and more active than you ever imagined.